Hello, this is Fear Script. This video will tell the nighttime stories of van and truck drivers who have experienced strange and frightening events. I won't keep you waiting. Enjoy watching. The locals call it long haul, like it's a person you can blame. If you live off County Route 9, you've seen the rigs crawl through at night, headlights cutting cornfield fog into bright slices, brake lights glowing like slow-burning coals. It's normal out here, routine, comforting even, until you see one after midnight that doesn't feel like it belongs. I just finished closing up my uncle's garage. Not a real shop, more like a barn with a lift and a stubborn old radio that only ever picked up talk stations. I stayed late because a woman's sedan had come in sputtering, and in a town where the nearest tow truck is someone with a chain, you don't send people back out with a bad alternator. By the time I cleaned up, it was 12:47 a.m., the kind of hour where your keys sound too loud and your own breath feels like something you shouldn't make. The road home was empty, except for the humming darkness and the way the trees leaned toward the asphalt like they were listening. I was a mile from the highway junction when I saw it. A long-haul truck, full trailer, rolling slow, too slow for this stretch, like it was searching for something. No company name on the side. No DOT decals I could make out. Just a matte black trailer that swallowed my headlights instead of reflecting them. And the strangest part? It didn't have any marker lights along the trailer edges. Every rig I'd ever seen had those amber dots like fireflies. This one was just a moving shadow with two bright eyes up front. I eased off the gas, keeping distance. The truck drifted toward the shoulder, as if it had decided to stop. Then it turned into the old way station pull-off, abandoned for years, ever since the state stopped funding it and the building started losing shingles like bad teeth. No one stops there anymore, not unless they're dumping trash or meeting someone they don't want seen. I should have kept driving, but curiosity is a quiet disease, and it bites hardest when you're alone. I turned in behind it, staying back by the cracked entrance sign. My headlights swept across the way station building. Dark windows, chain doors, weeds pushing through concrete. The truck had stopped in the center of the lot, idling. I sat with my hands on the wheel, telling myself it was none of my business, that I'd turn around and be home in 10 minutes. Then my radio, which had been playing low static from a forgotten station, clicked. Not a pop, not a signal fade, a click, like someone had pressed a button. And through the speaker came a voice, calm and flat, like an automated message you'd hear at a bank. "Driver behind the unit," it said. "Do not remain." My stomach tightened so fast it felt like someone had hooked my ribs. I looked at the radio display. It wasn't tuned to anything that could broadcast. Half the buttons didn't work. I hadn't touched it. The truck's cab lights blinked on. For a moment, I could see the outline of the driver through the windshield. Except, it wasn't an outline. It was too still, too centered, like a mannequin posed behind the wheel. I swallowed and told myself I was imagining it. Fatigue does that. Midnight does that. Then the cab lights blinked off again. And the trailer door, those heavy double doors at the back, unlatched by itself. No one walked back there. No flashlight beam. No footsteps. Just the metallic clunk of locks releasing, followed by the slow, deliberate groan of the doors opening inward. Cold air rolled out, and my windows fogged instantly, as if the trailer was exhaling winter. I don't mean it was chilly outside. It was late summer, warm enough that my shirt stuck to my back. But that air that came out was freezer cold. I could see it, a pale mist drifting along the pavement. My headlights shone into the trailer. First, I thought it was empty. Then something moved, deep inside, far past where the light should have reached. A shape shifted like a person stepping from behind a curtain. And I heard it, not with my ears exactly, more like with my teeth. A low, rhythmic knocking, as if someone was tapping from the inside of a coffin. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. I froze, staring, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The fog from the trailer spilled outward in a thin sheet and crawled over the lot, flattening weeds and softening shadows. The radio clicked again. "Do not remain," the flat voice repeated. "Unit is not taking passengers." Passengers? My hands started to shake on the steering wheel. I put the car into reverse, and that's when the knocking stopped. Something in the darkness of the trailer leaned forward. Not walking, not crawling, leaning like a puppet pulled by strings. The headlights caught a face for half a second. It looked almost human, in the way a wax figure looks human from a distance. Then it smiled. Too wide, too practiced, like it had watched people do it but never understood why. The air in my lungs went stale. I punched the gas in reverse. My tires chirped on gravel. Behind me, the truck's engine revved once, deep and heavy, like a throat clearing. Then, in the mirror, I saw the trailer doors swing wider. Something dropped out, not falling, dropping like it had been released. It hit the pavement and unfolded on all fours impossibly fast. It was the size of a man but moved like an animal learning how joints worked. His arms bent wrong. His head bobbed like it was too heavy. And then it turned toward my car. I slammed into drive and sped out of the lot, heart hammering so hard I thought I'd pass out. My headlights shook across trees and ditch grass as I fishtailed back onto the road. I didn't look back for a few seconds. Couldn't. When I did, my rearview mirror showed the truck pulling out after me. No marker lights, no glow, just those two bright eyes. It didn't chase like a normal vehicle. It stayed far enough back to feel deliberate, like it knew exactly how much pressure to apply. My phone was on the passenger seat. No service out here, but I still grabbed it anyway, like holding it could summon help through sheer will. The highway junction was ahead. Two options. Left toward town, right toward the river road and my house. I went left. Town meant streetlights, cameras, people. The truck stayed behind me, silent and steady. Every time I sped up, it matched. When I slowed, it closed the distance with no effort. Then my radio cracked again. This time, the voice wasn't flat. It sounded like someone trying to imitate calm. "You missed your turn," it said. I didn't answer. I didn't even breathe. The road into town passes through a stretch of woods where the trees arch over like ribs. My headlights bounced through that tunnel, and for a moment, the truck behind me disappeared behind the curve. I thought, God help me. I thought maybe it gave up. Then the cab lights behind me flared, and for an instant, I saw the driver again. Not a mannequin, person, a real human face, pale as paper, eyes wide with panic, mouth open like they were screaming, but no sound came. They slammed their palms against the windshield from the inside, leaving faint smears, like greasy fingerprints on glass. And then the lights snapped off and the face was gone. Something cold spread across my scalp. Because that wasn't the driver. That was someone trapped. I hit the straightaway into town. First streetlight, then another. The familiar glow of the diner sign. A gas station with one pump still lit. Relief surged so fast it almost made me laugh. The truck behind me slowed. Not because it had to, because it chose to. It rolled to the edge of town limits, where the last streetlight flickered and the darkness began again. Stopped there, half in shadow. And as I drove past the gas station, my radio clicked one last time. A whisper, close and human, like someone leaning into my ear. "Thank you," it said, then softer. "There's room now." I didn't stop. I didn't call anyone. I went straight to my uncle's driveway because my house suddenly felt too far from help, and I parked under his motion light like a criminal hiding from a search helicopter. I sat there until the sun started pushing gray into the sky. When I finally got the courage to look back toward the highway, the road was empty. No black trailer, no headlights, just morning fog hanging low over the fields like it had been there all along. I told myself it was exhaustion, a bad late-night imagination, a trick of light and adrenaline and rural silence. Then, later that day, I drove past the way station in daylight. The lot was empty, except for one thing, a single boot print in dried mud near the center, as if someone had stood there barefoot and then stepped out of their own skin. And beside it, scraped into the concrete with something sharp, were 3 words. Long haul takes. I don't drive after midnight anymore. Not out here. Not on County Route 9. Because sometimes, when the night is quiet enough, You can hear a distant diesel engine idling where it shouldn't be. And if you listen closely, you can hear the knocking. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. Like somebody inside asking to be let out. Or like something outside, waiting for you to stop. The end of this story. Let's move on. They repainted the lines in the parking lot last fall. Fresh white paint, sharp corners, arrows that told you where to go and where not to linger. The grocery store manager said it was to improve flow, but everyone who worked the late shift knew the real reason. Tires had been leaving marks. Not skid marks, not donuts, tracks. I worked nights at a 24-hour grocery store wedged between a closed movie theater and an empty strip mall. After midnight, business dried up to almost nothing. A trucker grabbing coffee, a college kid buying instant noodles, the occasional insomniac wandering aisles like they forgot what sleep was for. By 1:30 a.m., it was just me, the humming freezers, and the parking lot lights buzzing like tired insects. That's when I first noticed the track. It wasn't always there. That was the unsettling part. Some nights the lot looked normal. Empty asphalt, oil stains, old chewing gum flattened into history. Other nights, right after midnight, a dark line would appear near the far end of the lot. Perfectly straight. Too straight. It looked like a tire track at first glance, but no tread pattern. Just a single, smooth groove pressed into the asphalt, darker than the rest, like the ground had been dragged by something heavy that didn't roll. It always started at the same place, right at the edge of the lot where the lights stopped reaching. And it always curved, slowly, deliberately, toward the store. I told myself it was water runoff, or some weird oil seep, anything normal. But water doesn't show up dry, and oil doesn't vanish before sunrise. The first time I really paid attention, I was taking out the trash at 12:58 a.m. The air was still. No wind, no traffic. My footsteps sounded disrespectfully loud, like I was interrupting something. I reached the dumpster and froze. The track wasn't there when I walked out. Now it was fresh, dark, close enough that I could see tiny cracks in the asphalt bent inward, like the ground itself had been pulled. It hadn't made a sound. I stared at it longer than I should have. Something about it made my head feel tilted, like when you look at a picture that doesn't quite line up with itself. Then the parking lot light above me flickered. Once, twice. I dropped the trash bags and went back inside without looking behind me. That night, just before closing my register, the automatic doors opened. No chime, no footsteps, just open. I looked up, expecting a customer. There was no one there, but the doors stayed open, like they were waiting for something to cross the threshold. I walked over and waved my hand in front of the sensor. Nothing. The doors didn't budge. Outside, the parking lot lights buzzed louder. And then I saw it. The track had reached the front of the store. It stopped just short of the doors, ending in a shallow, crescent-shaped indentation, like whatever made it had paused there. Considering, the doors finally slid shut on their own. I didn't sleep when I got home. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined that dark line creeping closer, carving its way through hallways, across carpet, up walls. The next night, I asked Marcus, the security guard, if he'd noticed anything weird. He laughed, but it wasn't a comfortable sound. "You mean the line?" he asked. My stomach dropped. He told me the cameras never caught it appearing. One frame, the lot was clean. The next, the track was there, closer each night, inching forward between camera refreshes like it knew exactly where the blind spots were. He also told me something else. A month earlier, a car had been found in the lot at 3 a.m. Engine cold, doors open. No driver. Just a single, smooth groove in the asphalt leading away from the driver's side door, pointing into the darkness beyond the lights. After that, I started watching the clock. Every night, just after midnight, 12:03, 12:07, never the same minute twice, the track would appear again, restarting at the edge of the lot. But it grew faster. What used to take hours now took minutes. By 12:30, it was already halfway across. By 12:45, it was close enough that I could see it from the front windows. And then, one night, it didn't stop at the doors. The automatic doors slid open by themselves. The track crossed the threshold. The store lights flickered, dimming like something was drawing power straight out of the building. The freezers groaned. The air grew heavy, thick enough to press against my chest. I stood frozen behind the counter, staring as the track carved its way across the tile floor. No sound, no vibration, just a slow, inevitable line advancing toward me. As it moved, the tiles beside it cracked. Not shattered, just bent inward, like they were trying to follow. I backed away, my heel hitting a display stand. It toppled with a crash that echoed too long. The track stopped, right between me and the exit to the back room. The lights above the track went out, one by one, plunging that section of the store into shadow. And from that shadow, something pressed upward. Not rising, pushing. The floor bulged, stretching like rubber over a shape beneath it. I could see the outline of something long and narrow, moving just under the surface, following the path it had already marked. I ran. I didn't care about the cameras, the register, the rules. I bolted through the back door and didn't stop until I hit the street. Behind me, the store went dark. The next morning, the place was closed. Structural issues, they said. The manager wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. The parking lot had been repaved overnight. Fresh asphalt, clean and smooth. No track. I quit that day. A week later, driving past the lot at night, I saw something that made my hands tighten on the wheel. A brand new parking lot, brand new lines, and at the far edge, just beyond the reach of the lights, a single dark groove, waiting for midnight, waiting to start moving again. Pause between stories. Like and subscribe if you find it even slightly interesting. Enjoy the rest of your viewing. After midnight, the parking lot stopped being a place. That was the only way I could explain it. I worked nights cleaning offices in a medical complex just off the interstate. The buildings shut down by 10, but the contract required someone to come in after midnight. Less traffic, fewer complaints. It was just me, a ring of fluorescent lights, and a parking lot big enough to feel like an empty airfield. The lot had 3 long rows and a circular drive in the middle. I parked under the same light every night, partly out of habit, partly because that light never flickered. The others did. The first time I noticed the track, I thought someone had dragged something heavy across the asphalt. A dumpster lid, maybe, or a pallet that fell off a truck. It ran straight through the center of the circular drive, a single dark line pressed into the pavement. Not scratched, pressed, like the asphalt had softened and been pushed aside. It wasn't there when I arrived. I was sure of that. I always did a quick glance around before unlocking the door, old habit from a different job. But when I stepped out at 12:34 a.m. to grab my supplies from the trunk, the track was waiting. It ended 10 feet from my car. I crouched and touched it. The pavement was cold. No heat, no residue. Just a shallow groove, smooth as if polished. I told myself I'd ask the property manager about it in the morning. I never did, because the next night it moved. Not in front of me, not dramatically. I only realized it had changed when I walked out again and saw that the end of the track was closer. Close enough to reach the edge of my parking space. The shape was different, too. It wasn't straight anymore. Curved subtly the way a finger bends when it's about to point, toward my car. That night, while I worked, the building made noises it never made before. Soft ticking from the vents. A low thump somewhere below the floor. The lights hummed louder, like they were being strained. At exactly 12:58 a.m., every exterior light shut off at once. Not flickered, shut off. I stood in the hallway, mop in hand, staring through the glass doors into a parking lot swallowed by darkness. Then one light came back on, the one directly above my car. The rest stayed dark. In that single cone of light, I saw the track extend. Not quickly, not slowly, purposefully. It crept forward a few inches, the asphalt dimpling ahead of it before settling into that same smooth groove. No sound, no vibration. I backed away from the doors, heart pounding. I didn't finish cleaning that night. I waited until the lights came back on at 1:15 and left early, convincing myself exhaustion was messing with my perception. But exhaustion doesn't leave evidence. The third night, I parked in a different spot. The light above my usual space flickered twice, then stayed dark. The one above my new spot stayed on, and the track adjusted. It no longer ran through the center of the lot. It bent, reshaping itself into a wider arc that ended beneath my driver's door. I stood there, keys in hand, staring down at it. A horrible thought settled into my chest, heavy and cold. It wasn't random. It wasn't marking the lot. It was mapping me. I checked the security office inside the building. The monitors showed the lot clearly, but the track didn't appear on camera. Where I could see it with my eyes, the feed showed clean pavement. Probably a sensor issue, the remote guard said over the intercom, bored and distant. Long shift does that to people. I almost laughed. At 12:41 a.m., the building lights dimmed. The air changed, thick, pressurized. The smell of ozone crept into the halls. I didn't wait for midnight. I grabbed my bag and headed for the exit. The doors wouldn't open. They slid an inch, then stopped, shuddering like something was pressing against them from the outside. That's when I heard it. A sound like concrete settling under weight. Slow, rhythmic. I looked through the glass. The track was moving again. This time, it didn't stop at my car. Passed beneath it, the asphalt dipping as if something massive was rolling under the surface. My car rocked gently once, then settled lower on its suspension. The track kept going, straight toward the doors. The groove deepened as it moved, the pavement on either side slumping inward. Tiny cracks spiderwebbed outward, chasing the curve. When the track reached the doors, it paused. The pressure on the glass increased. The doors bowed inward, just slightly, and then the sound changed. A scrape, not against the ground, against the inside of the asphalt, like something with edges was adjusting itself. I stumbled back, nearly slipping on the tile. The track crossed the threshold. The floor tiles cracked but didn't break. They bent, sinking along the path as if the building itself were being gently unzipped. The lights above the track went out in sequence, following it like a shadow. I could see the outline now, not the thing itself, but the space it displaced. Long, narrow, too symmetrical. Whatever it was moved with confidence, like it had done this before. Stopped 10 feet from me. The pressure lifted. The air rushed back into my lungs like I'd been holding my breath without realizing it. And then, from the groove in the floor, came a sound. Not a voice, a vibration that resolved into words inside my head. Park correctly. I ran. I didn't unlock the doors. I smashed the emergency exit window and crawled out into the dark. I didn't stop until I reached the road, barefoot and shaking. The company terminated the contract 2 days later. Subsurface instability, they said. Unsafe conditions. They fenced the lot off. A month passed. Then construction crews arrived. Fresh asphalt, fresh paint, brand new lot. On my drive home from a different job, I passed it just after midnight. Every light was on. Every space was empty. And right in the center of the lot, perfectly aligned between the white lines, was a single dark groove. Waiting, patient, ready to see where I would park next. We smoothly moved on to the last story. They used to chalk the parking lot after midnight. Not for art, not for games, for alignment. I worked graveyard security at a distribution center that shared its lot with a half-dead strip mall. A dentist, a nail salon, a closed gym with fogged windows and peeling posters of smiling bodies that no longer existed. My shift ran from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., and my job was simple. Patrol, log, don't touch anything, don't ask questions. The chalk was already there when I started. Thin white lines, redrawn every night just after midnight. Not parking lines, those were painted and permanent. These were temporary, faint, and wrong. They didn't match any vehicle size. They curved where curves made no sense. They formed a long, continuous path that cut across spaces, sidewalks, even the fire lane. One unbroken track. The first night I noticed it was 12:11 a.m. I remember the time because my watch vibrated with the hourly check-in just as my flashlight beam crossed the chalk line. It wasn't on the cameras. I checked immediately. Camera 3 covered that section perfectly. Clean asphalt, no markings. But right in front of me, under the buzzing lot lights, the chalk track was undeniable. It started at the far edge of the lot, where the pavement dipped into shadow, and ran straight toward the loading dock doors. I radioed my supervisor. "Hey, did maintenance come through tonight?" Static. Then, negative. No scheduled work after 10. I asked about the chalk. Pause. What chalk? I didn't push it. After midnight, the place felt different anyway. The air got heavier, like the lot was holding its breath. Sound didn't travel right. My footsteps came back to me delayed, like echoes that had to think before responding. The chalk track wasn't just a line. Up close, it had depth. Tiny grooves pressed into the asphalt beneath it, like the chalk was only highlighting something already there. Something permanent. At 12:37 a.m., the lights flickered. Not all of them, just the ones over the track. They dimmed in sequence, following the line as if tracing it. And then the chalk moved. I didn't see it slide. I saw the result. New chalk, fresh and bright, extending several feet farther toward the building. The old end remained behind, like the thing making it didn't erase, only advanced. No sound, no motion, just closer. The next night, I came prepared. Camera tablet in hand, flashlight charged, phone recording. At 12:02 a.m., the chalk reappeared exactly where it had started the night before. I checked the cameras. Nothing. The tablet showed a clean lot. No chalk, no grooves. I stood there with one foot on either side of the line, heart thudding, trying to reconcile what my eyes were telling me. That's when I noticed the footprints. Not on the asphalt, inside the chalk. Bare footprints, pressed into the line itself, as if someone had stepped into wet powder and walked forward before it dried. They weren't human. Too long, too narrow. The heel dragged slightly, like balance was optional. At 12:29 a.m., the loading dock door sensors chirped. No door opened, just the sensor. The chalk track reached the dock. I heard something then, a sound like stone being rubbed together deep underground. Slow, patient, directly beneath the asphalt. The chalk brightened, not glowing, becoming more visible, as if my eyes were being forced to focus on it whether I wanted to or not. The pressure in my ears built until swallowing hurt. And then I understood. The chalk wasn't marking where it had been. It was marking where it fit. I ran inside and locked myself in the security office. The cameras still showed nothing. The lot was empty, perfectly normal, but the vibration didn't stop. It traveled through the concrete floor, through the chair, up my spine. Something enormous was moving beneath the lot, aligning itself with the track above. At 12:44 a.m., the vibration paused. A knock followed, not on the door, from below the floor. One knock, pause. Two knocks, pause. Three. The chalk crossed the threshold. I saw it through the office window as a thin white line crept under the door frame, splitting perfectly around the base like liquid finding the easiest path. The floor didn't crack. It sagged. The tiles bowed downward along the track, forming a shallow channel, as if the building itself was yielding politely. The lights above me went out. In the dark, the chalk was still visible, and something beneath it pressed upward. I couldn't see the thing, only the shape of absence, the way space was being occupied by something that didn't belong in it. Long segmented, wrongly straight, a voice entered my head, not loud, not threatening, administrative, alignment incomplete. I screamed. I won't lie about that. I screamed and backed into the far wall, knocking over the chair, the desk, everything. The pressure increased. The chalk line deepened, carving into the floor like a guide rail. Correction required. I slammed the emergency release on the back exit and fell into the alley, skinning my hands on concrete. I didn't look back. I didn't wait for permission. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs gave out. I quit that morning. 2 weeks later, the distribution center shut down for foundation issues. They fenced off the lot, tore it up, poured fresh concrete, painted new lines. No chalk, no track. Last night, driving home from my new job, I took a detour. It was just after midnight. The lot was empty, quiet, perfect, except for one thing, a thin white chalk line, freshly drawn, starting at the edge of the darkness, waiting to be followed, waiting to be completed. That's all. If you like these stories, check out some more of the ones suggested to you.